Standing committee reports, excuse me. So, anybody have anything to report? Mr. Jorfi.
Thanks, Mayor. I have a brief report for the Communications Standing Committee, which I'm on with Deputy Mayor Wilson. I'm not sure if anyone in the room has, but if you haven't, we have a resident engagement survey out on our website for residents to click on and take a brief 5-question survey asking how residents prefer to be communicated to by the Township Committee and the Township government in an effort to try to improve our communication line with residents to try to have the best line of communication we can. So there's a few brief questions. Please check it out on the website. It was a municipal messenger sent out a few weeks ago. There'll probably be another follow-up one, and then once we have the results, the Deputy Mayor and I will go through them and come up with a recommendation for the Township Committee on any changes that may need to be made, or any improvements or recommendations that we found from residents that we thought would be fruitful for the Township Committee. So, and my other report is for the Infrastructure Standing Committee. I just wanted to thank Committeeman Mancuso and Mr. Quinn for their hard work in coming to an agreement, which I believe we passed through the resolutions with St. Thomas More Parish for the parking lot for compensation. So thank you both for your work on that, and that's my report for tonight.
Very good. Would you like to report anything?
I have things to report, but I'll put them all in my comments rather than people have to hear me talk twice.
Very good. Mr. Arvanites, any committee reports?
Yeah, Mayor and I had a meeting with our sewer utilities 2 weeks ago, and basically just discussed some personnel matters. We discussed some of the capital improvement projects that are going to be going on through at the utility location, and I'm glad to report that everything is flowing smoothly.
Thank
That's
you.
a euphemism, isn't it?
Sorry?
Is that a euphemism?
Very good. Mrs. Wilson?
Yes, thank you. I have a couple of standing committee reports. The first is our fire standing committee. Last Saturday, our fire department concluded 4 days of hazmat training with a drill at our Woodland sewer facility. This training was made possible by a grant sponsored by the U.S. Department of Transportation. This is the 3rd year in a row that our fire department has been awarded this grant. A special shout out to one of our most dedicated volunteers, Gianna Del Col, for writing this grant. This training brings together first responders from several different agencies and towns, including hazmat teams from the county and from the New Jersey State Police, as well as first aid squads and fire departments from Morris Township, Parsippany, Mendham, and Rockaway. I had the opportunity to attend the final debriefing that concluded the training. 2 impressions really stood out to me. One was that the debrief was one of the best examples of learning through shared reflection and discussion that I've ever seen. And as a resident, it gave me a sense of comfort and assurance to know that we have first responders who are well trained to handle hazmat emergency situations. So kudos to all on that. I have a couple of things to report for our Environment, Energy, and Sustainability Standing Committee as well. A lot has happened since our last Township Committee meeting, and I want to just highlight 2 events in particular. The first is a regional information sharing session on single-use plastics that was held in Madison on May 16th. This event brought together over 100 people to learn about regional efforts that are underway to take action on eliminating single-use plastic bags. Participants included elected officials, environmental commission members, and residents from neighboring towns such as Chatham Borough, Chatham Township, Madison, Summit, and Livingston, among others. Many there expressed the hope that Morristown would choose to participate in this initiative as well. This coalition includes a group that is working to provide towns with a model ordinance and other tools such as surveys for residents and businesses. Morris Township was very well represented at this event, and I anticipate discussions taking place at our Environmental Commission and among us on the Township Committee and our professionals as new information such as the model ordinance become available and next steps begin to take shape. The second event I want to highlight is the Sustainability Summit that took place last Friday. This is a full-day event. It's sponsored by Sustainable Jersey, and it brings together hundreds of stakeholders from all across the state to learn about a full range of sustainability-related topics. 3 of us from Morris Township were there. We divided up the sessions to maximize our coverage, and we are planning to get together for a debrief, but which we have not yet done, but we will. I just want to mention there were so many things to come out of that. It was an extremely informative event. Just 2 points I'd like to highlight. One is that I heard repeated emphasis on the importance of community outreach and education on issues that relate to the environment, like recycling, water, single-use plastics, energy, et cetera, et cetera. And I know a subcommittee of our Environmental Commission is currently working on preparing an education program or developing one regarding recycling. And I know the Environmental Commission has other plans as well for working on community outreach and education programs. I also wanted to mention that the state of New Jersey just last week completed its draft of its energy master plan. And to my view, this is a very important document for us to do our homework on. I think we need to be informed on this. One of its most publicized goals is to accomplish 100% clean energy by 2050. And this plan outlines 7 broad strategies that the state is committed to pursuing, such as reducing energy consumption and emissions from both the transportation sector as well as the building sector, maximizing energy efficiency, accelerating the use of renewable energy, among others. These strategies align directly with the topics that our Environment, Energy, and Sustainability Standing Committee is charged with addressing, and they also align with the goals and initiatives that our Environmental Commission is discussing. So I see the state's master plan, energy master plan, as an important resource for us as we plan our local initiatives in the days ahead. And as far as the Transportation and Circulation Standing Committee, I just wanted to highlight one event. The National Park Service, which oversees 4 national parks in our areas, is working with the Federal Department of Transportation to explore and develop ways to improve connectivity between our national parks in anticipation of 2026, which will include a surge of visitors at the halfway point between the bicentennial and the tricentennial. And I commend them for, they're looking at it many years ahead of time. And it's a project that I'd like to see us keep an eye on because it will impact our work on our Transportation and Circulation Committee. So that is it. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. I am on the sewer committee with Mr. Arbonides, and I'll just add a little bit to what he said. Things are flowing very well in Morris Township, but we also take effluent from other towns. We process them here in Morris Township. We take effluent from Morris Plains, specifically, and Randolph, and a couple other places. So one thing that we talked about at the sewer committee meeting is there's going to be development across the street of Hanover Avenue at American Road. And so we just talked about managing the increased flows from that American Road development into our system. Interestingly, we get paid by the unit in Morris Plains, so just like we get billed by house in Morris Township, we bill them by household in Morris Plains. But in Randolph, we just take it by the flow, so we meter the flow and we charge them back by the flow. So we also discussed the flow rates from Randolph and how much is coming in from there. So those are 2 other things we discussed. The sewer, and the third thing that I wanted to mention is the mandate that's coming down from the state of New Jersey for, is it nitrates? Nitrate removal through the sewer plants so that they don't go into the waterways. And we heard from Valerie Dolan about the surpluses in each of our utilities. That surplus that's in the sewer utility is going to be very important because I think it's going to be a $6 million project.
Woodland was $6 million to do, and we expect the same.
Yeah, so Woodland, we spent $6 million, and at Butterworth, we're going to spend $6 million. So having that healthy reserve will help us offset, anything that we need to go out to bond with to do that work and not raise the rates. Second is John and I are also on the engineering committee together, and we also met. One thing that we talked about, we haven't made a final decision, but yes, we approved last month spending for Washington Valley Road as an annual NJDOT grant program. This year we got a grant for Rayner Road, which is going to be constructed next year. The engineering committee did discuss which major project in the township we should be applying for NJDOT grant money for this year, which we have another few weeks to decide, and when that decision is made, we'll let you know, but we discussed that in the engineering committee. And the last committee I want to report on is the Joint Court Committee, and I have some excellent news for Peter Mancuso, who is very big on the texting and driving, and we had that initiative where we got the grant from the state, so we put in extra time on texting and driving. We increased, if I remember correctly, the number of tickets by we almost doubled. For the period that we did the enforcement action on distracted driving, we almost doubled the number of tickets because of that extra work that the police force was able to do. That was a two-edged sword because people were made aware of what they shouldn't be doing, but it also jammed up the courts a little bit for a few weeks there because the way the state ordered the tickets to be written is it required a mandatory court appearance. You couldn't just pay off your ticket. If you were a distracted driver and got a ticket, you had a mandatory court appearance, and that backed up the court. So that was really interesting, but I thought you'd be happy to hear that.
Ancillary to that, Mr. Mayor, is we're still trying very, very hard to convince the legislature and the governor to increase the penalties for texting while driving. The reason that people still text and drive is they don't realize that if the penalties were draconian and there was a $500 fine and a loss of 2 points, I would bet you that 95% of the people who text and drive would not do it. And I've promulgated that, but at this juncture, I'm swimming upstream, but hopefully it'll ameliorate. Thank you, sir.
Very good. The other thing to report from the joint court is, as you know, it's a joint court with 5 towns. It's both the Chathams, Madison, Harding, and Morris Township. We are the biggest members of the joint court. We have the most business amongst the joint court. The administrator for the joint court, so just as Mr. Quinn is the administrator for the town, the court has an administrator who announced his retirement, so his name is Frank Ciampi. He's done a fantastic job for the joint court, bringing together the 5 towns and making it a model for shared services in the state of New Jersey. So the joint court is going to be interviewing people to take over that administrator job. It's a big loss for the joint court, and we wish Frank well. He's done a great job. And that concludes my reports. Very good. So now we will move on to committee commentary. And as I stated before, the Township Committee is going to make commentaries first, and then the public can make inquiry. So we'll start with Mr. Georgie.
Thanks, Mayor. Just real quick, first I'd like to congratulate our new sergeant in the police department for this milestone in his career, and also to thank Rick Hahn for his decades of service to Morris Township. One thing I just wanted to note was this past Memorial Day was the second time I attended the Memorial Day ceremonies here at Town Hall and in Morristown. Last year was with the fire department. This year I was with the rest of the Township Committee members, and I just wanted to commend the American Legion and all the veterans who took part in the ceremony this year. It's a really wonderful and beautiful ceremony, and it really means a lot, I'm sure, to the veterans in our community. And so in the future, I encourage any resident who hasn't been to it to go to it one year. And I know there's also a Veterans Day service, I believe, too, in November, run by the American Legion. That's also very worthwhile in going. So just wanted to note that, and those are my public comments.
Thank you.
I have a few small items, Mr. Mayor. Number one, I think the celebration that Kathy was talking about that's going to take place in 2050, in 31 years, I may miss that.
You'll be there in spirit, no doubt.
One way or the other, right? When we cancel the ordinance on vaping last month, I told you that I would be in touch with Assemblyman Bucco and whomever else I could speak to in the state assembly. And I have spoken to him twice about it so far, and we are trying to work a meeting with several people to try to see if we can get the state ordinance to be promoted and promulgated so we could follow suit here in Morris Township. Mark mentioned the agreement we had with St. Thomas More concerning the lease of the parking lot. It'll be for the next 2 years with an option for 2 years after that. It was a very, very peaceful and wonderful negotiation. Chief Mark DiCarlo just returned from Quantico, where he graduated from the FBI National Academy. He did a 10-week course there, and we're very, very proud of him, and it's a prestigious thing for us. And on a very, very sad note, you were all here last month, or many of you, when Lieutenant Lawler was made lieutenant from sergeant, and his wife was transported here from the hospital. But as you well know, she passed away last week. So it was a very tragic thing for Morris Township and for our family. So keep her in your prayers and God bless her. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Archimedes.
Our pools are open. As you know, I try to promote to get as many people to join our pools as possible. I happened to tour the facility with Bill before the opening, on opening day, and the facilities looked spectacular. So I haven't had a chance to jump in yet, but hopefully this weekend I will be. Just one comment, and Mr. Quinn, I don't know what the mechanisms would be to try to move something like this forward, but to try to have public comment in the beginning on our agenda as well, due to the fact that many people sit here till sometimes 10, 11 at night to make a comment, and they may or may not want to participate in our festivities here for the hours that we're here. So I don't know what the proper mechanism is to move that, or if the rest of the committee would be in favor of something like that. But if we can at least have a discussion, I can poll in the near future, and let's see about it. I will poll from anyways. Thank you.
I thought we had talked about doing that. No?
First I've heard of it.
Okay. I think it's a good idea. Tonight we passed the EDACT ordinance, and I just wanted to comment on a couple of the accomplishments that that EDACT, our Economic Development Advisory Committee, has made since February, when it started meeting for this year. The ordinance revision did engender quite a bit of discussion among EDAC members. It was created in part because we had new members coming on who had to fill out conflict of interest statements for their business, and so we made some changes in the language on that. But in the process, there was discussion of other aspects of the ordinance, the duties and responsibilities, and so I consider the passage of tonight's ordinance to be an accomplishment that was very helpful to the committee. We have a subcommittee. There was a subcommittee on EDACT who have worked really hard and have developed a draft strategic plan, which I think is quite extraordinary. And the two people who collaborated on that will be coming to our July Township Committee meeting and giving a brief presentation on the draft strategic plan, the purpose being to just sort of give the Township Committee and the audience a heads up, and if you have any ideas that you'd like to contribute before it's finalized, that would be an opportunity to do so. Also, there is a subcommittee on EDAC that is working on developing an outreach to businesses plan, and they've started on that, and they're progressing well. We've had several activities that have put us in touch with the County Economic Development Committee and with several of the other economic development committees in other towns in Morris Township as well. I mean, in Morris County as well. So a lot has been going on, and I'm happy to report that. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. I too like John's idea of having a section up front in the meeting for people to come out I'm sure Mr. Bellis here has waited all night to talk about his issue, but some people might not have the time. So I think it's something that we should consider, but we'll discuss it offline. I wanted to thank Mr. Mancuso for his follow-up on the vaping issue with Assemblyman Bucco. I appreciate that follow-up, and I hope you continue to do that. And you might have more contacts with more Assembly people in the state of New Jersey, which you could do that with too. And I also want to thank you for mentioning Jen Lawler, and to keep her in our thoughts. It's a big loss for not only Lieutenant Lawler, but for all of us who knew her. Mark mentioned Memorial Day. I wanted to thank all of the participants that came out. In the many years that I've come out, and I've not come out every year, I would say that this year was one of the best attended parades I have seen. There were so many kids that came out and people driving cars. It was really nice. And I just wanted to thank the public for coming out for the services. I also was very honored to speak both here and at Town Hall and on the Green, representing the Township of Morris as mayor and making those Memorial Day remarks. I wanted to congratulate our graduates from high school. We have a number of high schools in our town, Morristown Beard, Del Barton, and Villa Walsh, all who have held graduations already. And coming up this week, Morristown High School will hold their graduation. So I wanted to congratulate all of our high school seniors and wish them well as they go off to college. We got one there standing right behind the camera as I point at him. So good luck to you too. I also wanted to congratulate Chief DiCarlo, who just came back from FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. It's an amazing experience. He was telling me about before the meeting tonight. He was away for, 10 weeks, a 10-week program. He estimated, the FBI told him that they estimate that they spend $40,000 per participant educating these people, and he said there are police chiefs from 49 states represented at Quantico, as well as a number of countries that came in to get training. 30 countries and 49 states, amazing. So it's a fabulous investment by our country to educate and train our police chiefs around the country. And only 1% of law enforcement gets to go. So we are privileged not only to have Chief DiCarlo attend, but Mr. Quinn was in attendance also at the FBI Academy. So congratulations to Chief DiCarlo for his graduation. Kathy Wilson just brought up EDAC, and I wanted to congratulate Kathy for the great work that she's done with resuscitating EDAC. EDAC, not sure that languishing is the right word, but hadn't met much in the last year or two, and Kathy took over the reins at the beginning of this year and really has energized that committee, got a whole bunch of people who are really energetic and enthusiastic and are putting together a strategic plan for EDAC for the township. So I wanted to thank Kathy for her good work, and now that she's done that for 5 months, she's handed off the chairmanship. She was the chairperson of EDAC, and we've handed that off to Paul Danoon. So I wanted to thank Kathy for her good work and to wish Paul Danoon good luck in his new role as chair of our EDAC. And lastly, nobody else mentioned it, but we started our concert and movie series. Last night was the first concert, which unfortunately was rained out. It's supposed to be last night, so it's been rescheduled for, hasn't been rescheduled yet. But the next one I think is the 27th, if I'm correct, every Tuesday night. So come out on Tuesdays for great concerts, and the movie schedule is online as well.